Yep.
All right, the Lunenburg Water District Commissioners meeting, August 28th, 2024, 4 p.m. We'll start by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay.
Yeah, they're kind of big one in here.
Oh, look at that one.
But that's the grant money.
Yep.
We already got the money put into the bank.
Yep.
So it's just going right back out.
Nice. Free money. We'll grab that.
Quick.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to answer machine. I don't know if they hung up when I answered, so.
Oh, it's so nice. I forgot my phone.
Oh, that's a good thing.
Beautiful day. Why did we get my phone? I would accept the motion to approve the minutes of August 14th. Okay, that's done. The warrants are done, and then we have representatives from Ty and Bond regarding updated PFAS master plan.
I think I gave everybody a copy of.
Okay. You guys are up.
Sure. So, based on the last meeting we were attending, I think it was the board's decision to develop a scope to expand the PFAS master plan to cover a few additional topics, namely whether or not it was feasible, in more depth, what would it take to develop a new water supply source in a different watershed, namely the Lake Shirley watershed. Feasibility of connecting to a neighboring system in more depth. So we included some 3 neighboring communities to reach out and develop an actual plan to connect, assess the hydraulics involved to actually make that work. And then providing more information on the feasibility of treating heating as well to meet the overall demands of the water system. Zeroing in on what the O&M costs for that facility are going to be in more depth, as well as the cost to treat that well.
And we were still going to kind of break down, because we already have the cost to treat the other ones. Is that the?
I mean, they were a high-level cost, all of them.
Yep.
I think this effort here is intended to go a little bit more in depth to a more conceptualized design to get a more precise estimate or opinion on the cost to build that treatment plant. We're going to also have some results of the pilot testing from there. Over the next couple of months, we already have preliminary results from the pre-treatment softening system, which is challenging. So we can talk about that.
Yeah,
when you guys are ready.
that's why I didn't know if you guys want to talk about now because it's all kind of stuff going on with the Keating pilot test. I mean,
Let me just ask, who are the three communities you reached out to?
We haven't reached out to anyone yet,
Oh, okay.
but the plan would be to reach out to.
limits to Fitchburg and Townsend.
Correct.
Okay, I kind of figured that, but I just wanted to hear.
Yeah, that's kind of, I think, when we last discussed is, let's figure out what all our options could be and the cost of all of our options. So, yep.
So we can go to Kings, or you want to just do your thing and we'll talk Kings later?
There's only one other thing I'll point out in the proposal. We included what we call an optional task to develop a hydraulic model. It all depends upon how much additional backup do you think we will need to justify some of these connections to alternate communities. We could go without the hydraulic model and just use best judgment and best practices to estimate the infrastructure needed, or we could go more in depth, develop a hydraulic system model, see what the impacts would be system-wide.
But that would be difficult because you're not just looking at Lunenburg, you're looking at the other community. That was the big thing when I spoke to Fitchburg. And he says it's not, maybe we have the water. He wouldn't actually commit that they had the water to get to Lunenburg. But he says, the infrastructure needed on our side to get that to you. So that would be hydraulic modeling of what they need to do. And I know Fitchburg has a lot of complaints for dirty water. So if we start drawing 700, 800, 900 gallons a minute,
That's what we
now, so I think we're looking much more depth than.
Well, I think that the cost and then the pros and cons.
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
but I agree, you're gonna need pretreatment. If that's the case, if you're gonna draw so much out, what I'm getting is, it's the same thing when you flush the hydrants. You loosen up everything in the system. So if we're gonna draw that much, and we're gonna loosen up stuff in their system, and it's gonna come in our system, then we have to figure out pretreatment from Fitchburg into our system. Or pre-filtering somehow.
Theoretically, it would clear up if it was used regularly. But if this is an
Theoretically.
intermittent
This is-
usage, it could be a problem every time you turn it on.
That's why if it's gonna be a problem every time, and one of the things I know, I mean, once you let that contaminant or that additional media into our system, it's in our system.
Yeah, it's gonna settle out.
It's gonna settle out in our system, and we could flush it out, but again, you're still adding to our system. And you're not gonna flush 100% of that out. So that's another new thing that we never really thought of. So that's the idea of, one, can they supply us? Two, what's the cost of getting the actual piping? And if we need some sort of pre-filter, and then, what's the cost benefit?
Yeah, so no matter which community we connect to, if we ever did, we would need booster pumps to pump it to us,
Right.
and then you could tie that in.
Yeah, but whatever if we are only going down the path of one source, then I think we're gonna need a connection with another community, because it's not gonna be a if, it's gonna be a when we need the extra
All
water.
right, so now you're going, all right, so let's say we tie into Fitchburg, which Zach Taylor, the water guy.
Yeah.
He can't take water from Fitchburg because it's dirty.
Yeah.
And he's only pulling a couple hundred gallons a minute. So anyway, so let's say we do have a connection with Fitchburg and we draw, 5, 6, 700 gallons. 700 gallons a minute is 1 million gallons a day, so it could be that number or higher. And so if there's dirty water coming into Lunenburg, okay, Lunenburg's got a dirty water problem. Well, you just stirred up Fitchburg. How many pipes are feeding that section?
Well, that's where Fitchburg would have to decide if they wanted to give us that quantity or not.
Okay, exactly.
Or
So
how
we turn
the
that thing
effects
on.
like you said, the effects on their system by feeding our system.
Exactly.
Because it's not it's not an if, it's a when. If you're relying on one source, one of our sources right now as our primary source, to me, it's a when we're gonna need that.
Where does Townsend have public water down by the old dump in Lunenburg? Does it go that far down?
No, the closest.
They have a well, test well, but it's not a permanent source of supply.
Yeah. The closest they are right now isn't at the end of like South Row. You go South Road, Lunenburg to
no,
their
the,
Gilchrist or something.
which is Brookwells, which was Ash Street. So they were like, because we tried to buy them.
So from Townsend Harbor to,
It was like a mile into Townsend.
Okay.
1.1 miles.
because they just did new water lines like Emery Road and in that area.
Yeah,
So
they
now-
tied in the loop.
So now, from there to
Emery Road to
South
our,
Road, our
to
South Road.
That's probably a mile.
Yeah, so I mean,
I think that might be the shortest, but I think you're into rock getting over that hill. So that might not be the most economical.
but anyway, yeah, I mean, definitely, it's great, we gotta look at the different options and see. Okay.
Last page of all the prices.
So your prices don't include how in-depth we just went. It's just a baseline hydraulic model of the moon.
It would be Lunenburg only. We did develop the Townsend hydraulic model for them, so, but yeah, we wouldn't have anything associated with Fitchburg, so, you know, figuring that out, my guess would be they get their own consultant involved.
They have their own
to look
consultant
at
too.
that.
I'm sure they must have a model of their system, that's probably Levinson too, so they would probably have to have their own consultants determine whether or not.
Would the first choice be Townsend? I mean, Leominster, Fitchburg could hold water. And like what he just said.
I guess it's up to them to kind of, I agree that maybe we don't need to go as in-depth, but we do have to highlight some of the challenges should we move forward with any of these options.
Well, how's
Fitchburg
Townsend-
fluoridates too.
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
How's Townsend's system? I mean, it's good.
Townsend's
Clean.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They got good at producing wells.
I mean, I ate in a restaurant in Leominster last week and chewed the water. Horrible.
Leominster's pretty good. They got nice new treatment plants.
Well, they better get it running.
Okay. So, looking into interconnections,
Yep.
treating the Keating well, of course, treating all of our wells, what the options are. Because I think that the whole idea is to give everybody every option singularly, and we can present what we would support for a plan, but you know what, that each option would be a vote in my mind.
So are you thinking you want more information for the Lancaster one? Or are you just talking about, because we already presented all
No,
of
I
the...
think if we already have numbers to treat them, and then now with the pilot study being done,
Yeah.
if those numbers are fairly concrete, then yes, we could just go with those numbers.
Mm.
You know, and once the pilot study's done at Keating's, and, you know, we'll have those numbers. So, that's kind of where I was at. Yep, keep going,
Mm.
that should get through all of this.
Yeah, I think the biggest unknown from the completion of the PFAS master plan was Keating. So I think that's where this amendment focus was getting to understand what the true cost to treat Keating would be. Since that seems to be, I mean, it's the highest well producer. It seems to be where there's the most consensus on treating it. So advancing that to a point where we get some really good numbers.
So, true, that is our highest producing well. If we did our original plan, it was Hickory Hills and Lancaster Ave, we were at the same equal capacity.
Mhm.
So it wasn't like we were doing something that didn't make any sense. We were heading down a good road that if Keating's wasn't treated for 10 years, we were functioning perfectly fine. So, but anyway,
Yeah.
so I knew the big push is go to Keating's, but I don't think Keating's is straightforward the best. I'm not saying it's the worst, but I mean, it's not as easy as a lot of people think it is.
It is a singular well, so it's, you know, as opposed to the other plan which had multiple wells that combined to be of equal capacity to that. But yeah, so you know, update there is we've begun the pilot testing down at Keating's. To start that off, we did a pre-test to determine what was going to be needed for softening the water. We wanted to soften the water before we go through PFAS treatment to prevent, you know, any fouling of the expensive media prematurely. We just, you know, we want to do that.
Does hardness foul the media?
It can, if it drops out a solution in the media bed, it could end up plugging your filter, and then it would be very difficult to remove it.
Okay, so then it makes sense to treat the softness or the hardness of the water prior to PFAS removal.
Well, we're going to find out both answers.
Okay.
So we started with figuring out what does it take to actually soften the water down there, and so we've got that figured out now, and that's the bad news. So our pilot scale unit was around 3 to 4 gallons a minute to figure out what was needed. Based on that quick pilot, the pilot itself would need 200 pounds of salt each week and produce 2,000 gallons of waste each week just for the pilot itself if we were to continue it long term.
Just a pilot. Just doing the pilot test required 200 pounds of salt
In 1 week, yeah.
and generated how much waste?
2,000 gallons.
2,000 gallons of waste, just doing the pilot.
Just the pilot. So when you,
Wow.
we haven't run the numbers ourselves, but the folks who are helping us with the pilot gave us their calculations to review, but they said for full scale to treat the full capacity of the well, it's 57,000 pounds of salt a week and 600,000 gallons a week. So completely unfeasible. So we would not want to have to do that. So the next phase of the pilot testing is to go straight into PFAS treatment to confirm whether or not we actually need to soften the water before we go through the filters. If we can successfully treat it without having to soften the water, we can deal with softening the water after the PFAS treatment. Or before, I suppose, if we have to. It's just, it runs the risk if it carries through the media. So this company has pilot tested this similar setup before in another location with high hardness and PFAS. They were successful in treating the PFAS without softening the water. Their water was not quite as hard as your water. There is a chance that it could be a problem, but that's what we're going to find out. And so we'll go from there once we figure that
So
out.
we need to make sure that the hardness is a huge part of this treatment plan, because that's our #1 complaint for our water. I mean, our water tastes great.
Yeah, but if we could, again, there's people that are, they want all the information. So if we can treat it without treating the hardness and treat for PFAS, then that's an option. The next
I
option is, if you want us to treat the hardness, you can vote yes or no.
Yep. I got you. Keep going.
The hope is that we can have maybe like a clear well downstream of PFAS treatment where we can set up a place where it does precipitate out majority-wise, and it's maybe more easy to maintain than dealing with coating the pipelines and sending it out to the distribution system. But
How do you precipitate it out?
well, it starts to come out of solution once you adjust the pH, right?
Correct, instantly.
Right, so we would just adjust the pH before we go into a clear well, let it settle out in a clear well, have it multiple compartments so that you can take one down, clean that out while you're still running the other compartment.
Yeah, it doesn't settle to like
Right, coats.
it's coated, it's like
Right.
concrete.
Yeah, right.
So we have to use chemicals.
Yeah, like a hand-made scrub to dissolve it.
Yeah, we use
Sulfuric or
some, yeah,
Hydrochloric acid? or
hydrochloric
sulfuric
acid.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how we do it. It's very, to me, it's very hazardous.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, yeah, not something I want to do. We have to do it every year. That well's down 1 month a year while we do that. And and it's immediate. So when we have to take all the piping apart, there's valves in there, you can't use the valves because they're all coated up in a week. When you take it apart, you can see the injection flow. We inject the sodium hydroxide, and within 2 inches, it's kicked. So it's an instant, what it's called, where it changes to a solid and attaches to the side. And-
Right, so most people have that hardness and you can see like the dots on your windshields and whatnot. Take that just magnify that, because this is what's coming out at the source. and you're basically, you're right, you're making a solid.
Yeah, exactly.
Then if you don't clean it, then you're pumping less water, and then you run the risk of getting to a point where it just stops pumping.
And that's exactly what happened to us. I mean, we couldn't pump, max capacity was 300 gallons a minute, and we were tripping the high pressure discharge line. And so we started taking things apart, and the pipe, 8-inch pipe was so full that I only could fit 3 fingers into the pipe.
And that's an
how
annual,
full.
that's an annual thing to clean that out.
Annual, we do it annually.
So that would be something that's gotta be just,
Well, if, depending how this all works, if that's not removed and that well needs to come down, you know, because you mentioned the piping, the tanks, well, it's not even gonna get to the tanks. It's gonna be plugged up 6 inches from wherever you do that pH adjustment. So it's not gonna get to the tank.
So, I mean, we'd have to design redundant discharge systems that you could just completely switch to another train and take a whole chemical treatment train offline and switch over. So, you know, it would drive up the cost of the treatment plant, but, you know,
But
it
you
would be
have-
cheaper than trying to soften the water at those.
right, but if you run into an issue where this gets occluded and you can't pump, I agree with what he's saying, is you basically have to have a duplicate system right next to it that you can switch over to, and then that would give you the time to clean it while it's down. Granted, it's gonna be a matter of cost, because you have to have, you know, you're gonna take this piping and duplicate it over here, so you're just doing it twice. And then I would assume over time, you just keep cleaning this stuff, or, I mean, over time, you're gonna have to probably replace all of the piping in one.
Well, that's kind of the stuff we look at. I mean, we have to cut a new valve in out front, and that's what we're looking at, this 8-inch pipe, completely full. I mean, it's jam-packed full, so I'm looking at it, I'm like, do we even bother cleaning it, or we just cut it, pull it out, and replace the thing, you know? So are we gonna replace, you know, 8-inch elbows and ductile line into the building? So that's kind of where, you know, what do we do, you know?
Does that happen before or after the ultraviolet light?
Yeah. So the original well, when it was designed, the pH adjustment was on the low pressure side. So we have low pressure goes through the UV light, then we injected the chemicals, then with the high pressure pumps out into the system. So when the pH adjustment took place, all that hardness issues destroyed the pumps. I mean, they were leaking, squirting everywhere within weeks of turning the thing online. And actually destroyed one of the pumps. We had to replace a pump next year. The motors, because everything was so coated up, we had to change all the motors from 75 horsepower to 100 horsepower. None of the engineers could understand, like, well, that doesn't make any sense. I think it's because everything was coated up, bound up. And so then we switched it to inject after the pumps, the high pressure. So we injected on the high pressure side. And it was going to be a huge problem with it. But it was. It's horrible. It's terrible.
So that would be something that have to take into consideration during O&M costs.
Yeah, so I mean, to me, just hearing this stuff, I know it's a pain in the butt, or how intensive it will be to do the hardness removal prior to, but with how difficult I've seen that, I'm willing to sort of buy a tanker truck and start hauling the brine away where I'm aware of it. Yeah, I would, I'm not happy with it. You know, you get chemicals there, and you walk in the building, your eyes are watering, I mean, it's nasty. You get that in your eyes, you're blind, you know. I mean, wear the mask and best, but you're doing it for weeks, and something breaks, and someone splashes something, because when you put it in there, it's violent. It's not like you just stick it in there, it starts eating, it's violent. It's like gushing and bubbling, and it's.
So you guys do this work?
Every year.
Our guys handle all these real, like, flesh-eating chemicals on an annual basis?
Yeah.
On a daily basis.
Yeah.
Well, the chemical stuff that we do for the pH, that's daily. Yeah.
Right.
But so you get two parts of the pH scale. You know, we inject a very low one to treat the water, raise the pH, and then the other one's on the other side, so. Yeah, fun stuff.
So, yeah, that was the unfortunate news about softening treatment system.
But that's why we run pilot tests. 'Cause,
Yeah.
you know, this is what you wanna find out now before you when you build a full-scale treatment plant.
Oh, you mean we just don't want to vote and go ahead and build the treatment plant tomorrow, because that's what everybody wants? Huh.
Yeah, we got some engineers down here, we're setting up to that, we'll tell you how to do it.
Yeah, no, that's something that I was pushing at our last meeting, is waiting so that we have all the information,
Right.
so that we can make an informed decision, not just jump into something and then now realize the costs associated with it after, or the problems that come up after.
So we spoke to the primary operator of the air PFAS treatment plant, and he said we need to see that design. And I don't want to pick on engineers, but he said the engineers did not design that correctly. They needed to design another train, another whole redundant system, because he says when one's down, they would scramble to keep it going without having the other side. So he's like, don't listen to the engineers, you come see me and we'll figure it out. And then
Yeah.
you talk to your engineers, say, this is how you need to design.
Well, yeah.
And there's-
Which plant was he talking about? Is that Grove Pond?
The main one that's where they're, right on Devon's.
Yeah, that's Grove Pond.
Grove Pond,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was the first one. They
Yeah,
put
that was
on.
their, they were the
That was,
guinea
and that was
pigs for-
IX.
Yeah,
That was-
they were kind of the
IX
guinea
was-
pigs
yeah.
for it, trying to figure it out the
Yeah.
whole time, but he said,
So we gotta go see that one too.
yeah.
I would agree, I mean, we're sitting,
I think they're modifying, I think they're actually doing modifications to that plant.
Did-
I think so.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think because
Yeah.
it wasn't, so they're doing,
Yeah.
so that was his thing. You guys gotta come down and see how the real plant works. and
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
The goods and the
Yes,
bads, yeah.
And ways to work around stuff. And it
Yeah.
wasn't like, I think just because it's so new.
Well, I was just gonna say, they were ahead of the Littleton plant, so they were like literally one of the first PFAS plants, and they went IX, which was, again, one of the first plants to do that.
That's the ion exchange one? or-
Yeah. So that was, so they added that after an existing green sand, filtration plant.
Mr. Acting Chairman, would it be possible to relax the rules so that I could ask a couple of questions that's directly related to this discussion?
Right at where we're at right now,
Yes.
are they functional questions?
No, I'm not a
I'm not saying
functionary.
you're dysfunctional, Mr. Roberts, I'm just saying, are they based on,
Relevant.
yeah,
Yes.
I would say that they probably are. I'm open if we need to kind of just talk about this and then
Okay.
get to the crux of it.
I'm going back in history, Fran, and I remember a discussion that was had for the potential for another well. I want to be careful about what I say here. That was under the control of one of the biggest developers in the area. Okay? And the other question I have is, when they were talking about the lettuce company, so-called, weren't they talking about putting in another well up there?
Yeah, that was
That was, we,
a different type. than
Bedrock
where you-
well.
Bedrock well, yeah.
right. Yeah, so there is some good history of good potential bedrock wells in that area, which is right near behind Walmart.
When you say a good, what's a bedrock well put out?
I think if you get 150 gallons a minute,
Right.
you know, like
So,
some that do
you're saying it's a
700.
good bedrock well, but compare it to our largest producers, Keating's and Hickory Hills. then-
Right, but I mean, there are some that do 700. I mean, I hear one, was it Maynard? They did some huge producer ones, but they needed severe treatment, iron and manganese. So there is the side downside of it too. But yes, that's true. We had them flagged and staked out there. That was more tied to the housing project that was going to take place. There was an open space area, and that open space kind of took care of where those wells were located that we needed to test for. So now that that project's all gone, I'm not sure what the status is. I'm sure it's all Powell, Steve and Jeff Powell own all that now. I'm sure we could go out there and do testing
I just bring that up as a potential alternative in the whole scope of things. The other thing I think is very important is the next time that you test down at the Keating site, so-called, invite our friends so that they can join us at the building, and so they could see firsthand the problems that we would be addressing and facing.
And you did mention another well. We have a potential well site on Goodrich Street.
Right.
That's actually,
Mr. Brook?
yes, it's on protective radiuses, so they,
Yeah, and that would be part of, I believe, part of what you're doing here is to evaluate developing a new water supply within, well, you got the Lake Shirley, but, I mean, just.
that's nearly, so
That's
it'd be the same.
Right.
Almost the whole part
But
of
if we
town.
could look at some of the, we would be looking at some of these potentials.
Right, sure.
And just say, all right, what are the challenges? Because obviously, you take Easterbrook, we gotta run some main.
A lot of it.
Yeah, you
Downside
take,
of that.
you take, I think there was Sunset Lane or Rob's Hill area, there was a potential down there. You have to run a whole bunch of main.
Yes, yeah, that was a
So-
high. So the ones that are on the peninsulas of Lake Shirley are 1 million gallons a day, 700 gallons a minute, give or take. So it could be 500 to 700. The one on Goodrich Street is a lower producing well. It's like probably 250 gallons a minute, maybe 3. So that's where you start weighing these things. Do we run 3 miles of water main, which is how many millions of dollars to put in a new source? And
Which
then
is
you're
still
gonna
gonna
combine.
require, no matter what, it's gonna require some level of treatment.
Oh, anything that we do.
Any new source is gonna require treatment.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, isn't Easterbrook down the end by Goodrich Street? Or
Yes.
Reservoir Road?
It is, I mean, what is that, probably a mile and a half from Reservoir to the end of, might not even.
Yeah, so I know it was a long time. I don't remember the exact numbers, but I remember I'm a looper,
That's good.
So I ran Lancaster Ave down Goodrich to Reservoir, so it was a
Yeah.
loop system. So it,
Well, they're all gonna cost money.
Yeah, but I mean, I believe that the point being, Mr. Rogers, I think they're going to look at alternative sources.
Okay, I just bring it up in this discussion
Yep.
so that, just in case,
Yep.
Fran forgot that these guys are sharp as hell. But he's,
not much I forget.
yeah. The other.
Well, we gotta get it documented before he does forget.
Yeah, that's a problem. The other point is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but based upon this discussion, is it safe to say that the Keating well would be a marginal solution to this problem?
Is that gonna suffice as the only supply for the community? In my opinion, no.
That's what my point is. So, I mean, there's all kinds of sources that are pushing on the district, but the fact of the matter is, general numbers, I think, at the first pass would be okay, because I mean, I don't think that there's a reason to go and test a whole bunch of things when you don't know what the lay of the land would be and the results would be. And I know that you got to test to know this stuff, but I think you have to make a calculated assessment, and it just appears from excuse me, from my mind, just being Joe Citizen, that that's what I'm hearing, that it's a marginal kind of a thing. And the other thing is that it sounds to me like if you do something down at the Keating, well, so-called, you really have to have a tandem system for just the reasons that you said. If one fails, you can clean it and still not be out of business. So there's a lot to think about in that particular location, I think, from my.
Right, especially where you're thinking that you're only source.
Yeah.
Yes, all that. I mean,
You can't shut it off.
If you have
So
multiple
you have to,
sources, shut it down for 2 weeks, okay.
you have to have plans for when it does go down.
No. With regard to entering into some kind of a discussion and ultimate deal with our neighboring two large city so-called. I think it's an exercise in futility. I mean, you know.
I agree with you, but the public's asking for additional information. And-
Yeah.
And you were here, I think I was just getting started when we were talking about the Keating well,
Yeah.
and the option was to buy water from Fitchburg,
Yeah.
or put in the Keating well, and it was cheaper to put in the main all
Yep.
the way down Reservoir Road,
Yep.
and put the Keating well in, than it would have been to buy that water from another community.
Yep.
You know, we've done the exercises before.
Yep.
We all know, or just, you know.
I'm just saying that I think a lot has changed, and a lot of outside issues have raised their ugly head.
Oh, yeah.
And from a strictly political situation, I think that the chances are not that good to enter into an agreement. But that's just my 2 cents worth.
Yep.
So it's, you know, and you can give a general, I simply stated, I wouldn't spend a lot of money with an in-depth kind of a thing. I think that a cursory kind of a look-see would suffice. And no matter how you do it, you're going to get, you know, static from the powers to be that think that they are resident engineers and you know, very smart people with regard to this issue.
And I agree. I don't think we have to go into the hydraulics of everybody else's system.
Yeah.
I think it's something we have to make sure that it's something, if we pursued, we would have to look at, and could definitely change the costs of what we're trying to do. So I would take the information that you have, and I would say, you know, I don't think we have the time or the money.
A qualified report kind of thing.
Yeah.
And one last thing with finances. I have always felt that because of the magnitude of this problem, 3M and DuPont are looking down the barrel of horrendous costs. And I think that politically there has got to be a stopgap type of a situation that will allow cities and towns like us to get the financial wherewithal to do what we need to do, because otherwise I just don't see how these 351 cities and towns in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you know, can come up with the money. So the money issue is, I think, is a big factor. Okay, so and that's why I wasn't, you know, concerned. The first step that they said no, you can't do it, because this is so far down the road in terms of finding a financial, clear financial plan for this stuff. It's just it's mind-boggling. So it's you know. I think that somebody other than the state and the massive insurance companies are going to have to come up with some heavy bread, because cities and towns just can't do it themselves. That's my. What do you folks?
Well, I think we're gonna dive into it a little bit more later on, because I have questions later on about some of the financial things that we're facing.
Yeah.
And what the next steps are there.
Yeah, okay.
The only thing with that is, you know, all the financials have to be voted on.
Yeah.
And you know how the vote's been going here.
Yeah.
That's why we try to give as much information as we can, and then, you know, the people can vote whether they want, how they want their water.
So that was kind of my question when we got this proposal, was what are you as a board gonna do? Like, did you wanna put this out to the residents now? Like, I know that you guys wanted this, the board agreed, yep, we wanna pursue all this. So are we now putting this out to the residents to say, all right, do you want us to spend $90,000 to do X, Y, and Z? You know what I mean? Like, either way, we'd have to vote on it, but are we gonna have a discussion with them ahead of time to say, you know?
No, they're gonna have to vote to spend the money, so we're gonna.
I think the discussion is right here.
Yeah.
That's what we pay $90,000 for, if that's what's gonna happen.
Well, that, yeah,
It's on
so,
the back page.
no, I see
Right.
that, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I'm just
So,
saying.
are we having a discussion, ahead of time before we sit there and say, all right, now we're gonna put to vote $90,000, or are we gonna have a discussion that, like an open discussion, that we invite them to come and say, you asked the water district to present more of a master plan. Well, we got some numbers, so you as the residents, do you want the water district to spend $90,000
That's
on
gonna
this?
be whenever we have our annual meeting, or whenever we decide to vote on it.
Right.
That's all. I mean,
You're
So we're
assessing
not waiting to
alternatives.
do, we're waiting to
Yeah.
do any of this until the annual meeting?
I don't know that quite yet. I
Ah.
wanna dive into
Did
some
we
of the
ever get,
financials.
wasn't a
and
grant
some
or
of the
something you
things.
guys were gonna try and go for?
Right, so that gets
So
into the
that's-
financial. Are we still, I just wanted to make sure we got through this before we got into some of the financial, because I had a bunch of financial questions and the process for the financial stuff. So do you want to continue and complete this, or do we want to get into the financial discussion now?
Well, I think the general scope of what we included in the proposal, I think, we're pretty much,
Okay.
discussed.
So, along with what Fran was saying, there was supposedly grant funding for PFAS testing and studying and possibly design. What do we need to have together, maybe including this, to get on the next SRF application process?
Those
And-
grant applications are rolling applications, you can apply to anything.
Okay, for the SRF or for?
No, not for construction.
Okay, so have we applied for the PFAS, getting the money back? Because some of the money was ARPA money, so if we can either give that back or ask them to repurpose it to this.
That's different.
I don't
That's our
think
class
that's, because I've been thinking about that. By the time we go through all this, sorry, Mitch.
Yeah,
By the time we go through all this, they have to allocate and spend that money by next year.
okay.
We're never gonna get this grant finalized and everything through
By that
that,
time
so.
frame. So it doesn't really matter.
I don't,
Okay.
I know you had mentioned it, so I just wanted to say,
Yep.
because you had thought about.
So that was a
talking to the
that was a
selectmen.
question.
I don't think all of it, correct me if I'm wrong, but by the time we applied for all this and did all this, I wouldn't think by the time the ARPA funding came due, where the town literally has to say, here, we're done, we spent all of our money, projects are done, that that's gonna happen. So if we were to get grant money to go towards, say, the heating study, and it was ARPA funding, well then, let's put that money towards future PFAS.
So,
That's kind of what I was thinking.
and this thing, where you said that it's a rolling application, so if we say, okay, this is a go, let's do this thing, then we hire them to submit the application for funding,
Mm-hmm.
and then depending on the outcome, we use that to actually fund this.
Mm-hmm.
Or we decide, is that correct?
We could definitely do that.
And then,
Or we would-
All of this stuff.
Step
is
one would be
cons-
apply for funding, and if, I guess the vote could be, if you get the funding, then the study goes forward.
but in my opinion, we go forward. We need to do this now.
We need this now because we need the information so that the public can make an informed decision.
So, in my opinion, annual meeting, we have
Yeah.
3 articles there. We're gonna treat this well, this well, and this well. Well, you all pick.
Yeah.
you know.
So we're gonna have this information before the annual meeting. is what you're saying.
I hope.
Yes,
That's why
yeah, that's what I
wanna
was
say we find out with the money right now. And if the grant doesn't get through, then, all right, we're gonna pull money from here to fund this thing.
I would like to have the full board weigh in, but that's kind of my opinion. I don't know how you feel, John, as far as getting all the information we need so that close to annual meeting time, we can say, this is how much it costs to treat this well, this is how much it costs to remediate PFAS for this well, this is how much it costs to treat that Lancaster Ave, this is how much it costs for PFAS.
I
This
think,
is how much it costs for Keatings for PFAS, this is how much we have to or we don't have to.
I
treat
think
the
we have to
hardness.
we have to have all our information, and we're gonna tell them that this is what it is.
Yeah,
Can't change, you either, this is what you're gonna have, this is what you're gonna vote on, and if we can't do this,
well, that's why it's
and never
all
mind,
laid out.
I'm not a big favor of having 200 people here that don't know what the hell they're talking about, and tell us how we're gonna build a treatment plant when we're paying these gentlemen money to tell us how, you know? So, I mean, who are we listening to and who do we want to listen to? I don't want to listen to anything they gotta say, because they don't know what they're saying. Everything they get is on the internet, which
So
is 99% of the time wrong.
this is where, you know, we want to hire our
Right.
engineering firm
Right.
to basically, these are the options.
Yeah. They
These are what
tell
the
us and we
options
tell
cost.
them,
And then, yeah, you vote on the options.
take it or leave it.
Yeah. So I agree with Fran, because this is all information that we need as part of the whole package, because everybody's requesting the additional information.
So why don't we give this an initial support, you guys?
Yep.
And then we give these guys, set them loose on going for the grant funding, and then you talk to Woody at the next meeting, and we have a full board.
Yeah.
And then maybe you say, okay, if that doesn't.
So these are
work,
rolling applications for funding. How fast could we get the funding for something like this?
So we have two examples. One, the community is being told they're going to get the funding. I don't know where that actually is and whether or not they've got it yet, but they've been told they're going to get it. And in another community, we've asked for it and there hasn't been a response yet.
And are you going specifically for this proposal, or are we gonna ask for? Yeah,
Yeah, you can get reimbursements through the same application. So planned or for reimbursements that are already completed planning work.
So would you, for this grant proposal, if they decide, yes, we want this, would it all be one? Hey, we want, you know, $300,000 to go, 200 for the past, 100 for the future, all as one, they pick and choose what they want to do.
Right, I would like to get you guys reimbursed
Yeah.
for what you spent to do pilot testing.
Yeah.
So to date, that was not ARPA funded.
Yep,
And then this going
Yeah.
forward.
yeah.
can we, so I thought the ARPA money was through 2025?
But actually, I'm wondering if, just you saying that right there, we don't have an expense for that.
Goes to the town.
It was through, but you know what I mean, like, that, the town is paying Time On directly. It wasn't a cost to us, so I don't have an invoice to submit for you to say, hey,
Yeah.
the Lunenburg Water District spent $200,000 on the heating well, because we didn't.
I just wanted,
That was our-
I wanna make
If
sure.
there was other piloting that you did.
Yeah,
spend
no,
your
I
own
know,
money.
I know, but
I
I don't
wanted-
think we can apply for more grants that Artie was paid with the grant, is what I'm trying to get
I
at.
don't think, yeah, you can't get a
I
grant
see
for a
what you're saying.
grant.
Yeah.
ARPA was.
They're not gonna give us a different kind of money for us to give the town the ARPA money
Money
back,
back.
because that's,
Grant, okay.
yeah.
In this
I'm
case,
just
we
wondering if he's, I
Both.
just wanna do my due diligence to make sure that there is no way that we can get that back, because there are still things that they'd like to fund on the town side.
Yeah,
But now I know what you're
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
You can't use a grant to pay for a grant.
yes,
But
yes.
in this case, we could use the Hickory Hills.
Yes, the
and,
260
and
that we
this
did.
90, so this
Yeah.
450,000.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say that, yeah, well, I would entertain a motion that we allow them to move forward with grant applications for funding for past and future.
You just make the motion.
Yeah, I would say I'd accept
So,
it. Yeah.
let's get on with it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So I would say that we would push this to our next meeting
Yep.
for approval, and then let us know timeline, what we're doing. And if you applied soon,
Well, yeah.
when would you expect to hear? Because if not, we need to probably consider alternative funding methods.
We heard back right away on the recent application that they got it.
Okay.
But still no time frame for
It was
funding.
ahead of the PEF applications, and they're like, oh, you know, because we applied for design funding for
Yeah.
a new treatment. So, and I said, well, those can be done through SRF now, because those haven't come out yet. So they may be looking at those projects slightly differently. Where this is a purely planning project, it might go through faster, but we don't, I don't know.
I would keep us in the.
They have a certain amount of money set aside, and once they spend it, it's gone.
Yeah.
When would you need to get started on this so that we would be able to take all the information we currently have, plus this information that we would have, and be able to put something together so that we could be able to vote on it at our next annual meeting as far as how we want to start to proceed.
When is your next annual meeting?
March.
March. Which is kind of in that timeline right here, right? I mean, you're projecting if you start, if you start,
New source
you know, if he starts,
was
just
just
move
saying
the
schedule
grant
the
up
first time
above,
around.
start applying for the grant,
3-4 months.
and if they start this,
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
think so.
and we get the approval soon after,
And then this would give everybody the information that we are looking to get out there. And
yeah.
The only thing I got is, I know the Hickory Hills Well, the original plan was to go through regular roadways, and I know we didn't really get into it a whole lot. But we have an option of going cross-country and bypass all the roads. So I think that, in my opinion, would be the best and financially the cheapest route to get this thing to happen, to tie Hickory Hills to Lancaster out together.
if that's a feasible option, maybe that's an option they should consider when we're redoing that.
That's
So
what I'm
that could be
thinking.
another update to the overall plan if we can.
You know, because I mean, we would save millions, you know.
Yep.
You know, because I spoke to a landowner, he owns from Mass Ave all the way to Lancaster Ave, so he owns, I mean, we could cross-country, what was it, 6 miles, 4, or whatever it was, probably 4 of the miles, you know, so it's, I mean, it'd be a huge benefit. So to me, it'd be if we look at it and maybe speak to that person and get some pricing, how much it's gonna cost for 20-foot wide easement for whatever distance that is.
Yep.
Come up with a plan and you know, get
Yeah.
Use that-
specific
use that
detail, you
information.
know, and say, hey,
Yeah.
you know, the numbers we used were estimates. Now, this is an actual number to do this cross-country main.
So would that be worth adding something into this? If you guys are gonna vote for this, should we add to this that if the idea is by the next annual meeting to present to the residents, all of the options?
Yeah, that
Well, shouldn't we have him, because by the end of the year, we should have more information for the pilot study, so we should be able to get better O&M for Hickory Hills and Lancaster, right?
Yeah, and I think, you know, we included, you know, Task A was prepared a report. I think that's really just integrating all of this into the existing report.
Okay.
Well, I think what we're talking about is maybe just updating some of the figures and costs that we had previously done, so.
Well, I just wasn't sure if any, by then, the pilot study, because they're doing finishing the pilot study, right, for Hickory Hills and Lancaster?
Yeah, we're gonna get O&M costs on some of this.
That's what my question was. Will we have more?
We just received the pilot results for Lancaster, I
Yeah.
believe. So I think we now have everything we need to complete the pilot reports for Hickory and Lancaster.
Yep.
And so we were gonna get moving on that. And then we should also be done piloting Keating, I think by the end of the year, so we should.
So that's why I was just thinking, by the end, when you submit that final report, I mean, in that final report, we're talking about, you know, Keating's O&M cost updates. Well, should we update, should we
That's true.
include updating
Yes.
the Hickory Hills and Lancaster as well, with that pilot study? You know, what,
Right.
is that
was a
another
specific
line
comment.
item?
That was a specific comment that they were looking for.
Yeah.
O&M costs.
Yeah.
We'll now finally have that information.
So I don't know if that's another
Is
line
that
item that
in
we
here,
should.
or is that part of our pilot study?
I wasn't
That's-
thinking about that specifically, but
we're- Yeah.
we'll get it in.
Right.
Yeah, I think if we're gonna
If you
present
need,
all of
if we
this.
need to, we just need to make sure we think about as much as we need to have done and make sure that it's,
Yeah. Yep.
that,
No,
you
that's.
know, that it's figured out.
We'll just revise the scope to include that. I don't really think it's going to change the number much, if anything.
Am I correct, after hearing all of you talk about this, that what you're trying to accomplish is to bring together an estimate for the 3 various options?
I think individual options,
Yeah,
and we're not putting, and we might make a recommendation,
yes,
but they're gonna all be voted on separately.
but you're assessing the alternatives that you're gonna
Yep.
present so that you can have vanilla chocolate or strawberry.
Yep, if the town, if the residents wanna vote for us to buy water from Fitchburg, and we
Jesus.
tell them it's gonna cost us more money, and they wanna do that, then they can vote to do that.
It may not get approved at Fitchburg, but.
And when they do get it, they won't wanna drink it.
John's comment about chewing the.
Oh, jeez.
Well, have you drank any water from us lately?
No, I don't drink water.
If
That's
they're-
from the water main.
I can tell.
It's the soup of the day.
Based on our discussion, before we get right to this, if there is anything else that you think that we're gonna need to be able to basically separate everything out, and then we're gonna have to look at, I mean, I think that we have to look at each well individually, and then we can talk about an option to blend sites, like you talked about doing Hickory Hills and Lancaster Ave before. That needs to be a separate option. And we need to look at, you know, if we're gonna put Hickory Hills online and treat that, or we're gonna try to use Lancaster Ave and treat that, or if we're gonna do them together.
Okay, because so this is where I don't know if you guys are gonna get into this too, but typical discussions of treating Lancaster Ave by itself, it's not worth it. So that's why we went.
I
there. So-
understand it's
so we're
not,
gonna
I
put it
understand it's
there.
not worth it, but you still gotta, I think we still gotta put it there. If they wanna vote to do something that's not worth it, then that's the voter's prerogative.
I'm with that.
We need to
Don't
break
like
it
it, but
down,
I-
and I don't like
I'm
it
with
either,
that,
yeah.
but, you know,
The other thing that's happened is, you know, we've had another bidding cycle, so we've got more bid results to base some projections on, so, you know,
yeah.
that also has an impact.
And that's a quick, this is how much it costs to treat Lancaster Ave by itself. We don't feel that this is a viable option. But this is what it is.
Yeah. So on your bidding, what are you seeing? Is it still rising, like kind of flattening out, or?
Well, one thing that we noticed was timing is everything. You know, you've had some projects that came in super high, and then some that, you know, right in on budget because it was just happened to have better timing. So it's a wild card.
And we just
And you
bid,
can't control when everybody else bids.
Right.
So
we just bid a single PFAS plant, about 2 MGD capacity. It was going right after essentially a brand new iron and manganese plant. It's only been online for a year or so. And so, yeah, we bid it kind of off cycle. It was bid just, like I said, last month, and came in right around $10 million. That's just straight construction on a $14 million budget. So that's straight PFAS, no additional treatment. Just a building with four PFAS filters in it. So that was good because, as Lou said, the timing of it, because there was a bunch of projects, including we did a bunch of projects in the spring too, that saw much higher pricing. We did a 2-plant project down southeastern Mass that came in at around $25 million. One was they were both straight PFAS because they were going after existing green sand plants, but a little complicated from the process standpoint. Added clear wells, things like that, aeration, made it more expensive. And then another community, we just did 2 plants. One was included, one plant was straight PFAS because it was after existing iron and manganese. Second plant was added iron and manganese treatment in addition to PFAS, one with some transmission things, and that was 30 million? High 20s.
yeah, I thought that came in like 27, 28.
Yeah, high 20s.
So we don't really know.
But I mean, it's
Right.
that's this year. So we're in the process of planning out, and designing next year's projects that'll bid next spring. And we're expecting those to come in higher.
Okay, so for timing, so let's say we get all this done, we bring it to our annual meeting, people vote, the submittal for the SRF funding is July 15th or 30th, whatever it was. So we got.
So time to
okay,
apply for
we
the
got the
SRF.
determining, yep.
Yep.
And then you know, then you need to approve the funding, once you get approved for the, yes.
Well,
Which should be the following June.
Are you actually approving funding you're saying at the next meeting? Is what you-
Are we gonna go for the approval?
Or is it just more
To
of like
proceed
a
for
concept?
proceed to
We're
apply.
I guess, we'll have to kind of work that out.
I would imagine you could say, authorize the commissioners, or whatever, to borrow this amount of money,
In
In
anticipation.
anticipation.
because we don't know if we're gonna get the SRF funding.
Yeah,
So appropriate it on the assumption you're gonna apply for SRF funding. If you don't get it, then you're on your own.
I kind of feel like that's how KP helped Word when we did the lead and copper grant that we got. At the time, it wasn't 100% grant, we were doing the loan, but like the way we wrote that covered everything.
Yeah, we could do it either
We
way.
could do it was covered, and then it turned into, great, we have a grant, you know, so it was,
Okay, and then we have to figure out, depending upon which way this water protection bylaw goes, do we want to design them in the zone 1 and zone 2? Or do we want to look at what the additional cost would be to design outside? I don't know. I don't know how do you even, you can't control that. We can, based right now, all of our conceptual designs are in the zone 1 and zone 2.
It would be almost impossible to get outside the zone too, without extreme
Mm.
costs.
Okay, so basically, I would say, based on cost, is what I would design them on. And then, if they go to the planning board and they tell us we can't build them, then it is what it is.
Yeah, so I'm not worried about it. The
Yeah.
planning board, you're just gonna give them a
All it
picture.
is
They have nothing to say about anything. So this is kind of why this doesn't make any sense. All they can say is, yeah, it's the building's gonna be a square, it doesn't matter, they can't say that. It's
But-
all the other impacts,
Well, then, but
people are gonna see it
can,
as the trees and,
are those impacts gonna be enough to change the money that we appropriate for these projects and whether we can do them or not?
It sounds like it's just another permit that needs.
yeah.
yeah,
fine.
I don't think that's something now, I think that's something that
Down the
if it
road.
comes down to that point, it's, hey, and they even expressed it, you guys go through 10 steps. Our voters voted in, our DEP approves it, it all goes through all of that,
But
so.
there could be some touchy things in there, like, well, okay, well, we don't want these heavy trucks driving in there.
Mhm.
And, oh, sorry.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not like we have an
What
option.
do you want? Yeah.
How do you,
So especially if we move out of the zone 1, now we're moving into, rather than Hickory Hills, which we're not building from there anyway.
Yeah.
But if we take Lancaster and move to another spot, we moved it from zone 1 to a residential area where there will be trucks driving into the.
Which it may not be zoned for.
So,
I know.
there's nothing we can do about that.
Yeah.
Hey, let them dig their graves, jump in. That's what's gonna happen. They're just pushing us down and down and down, we can't get anywhere.
so, I don't think, is there anything more to, have we beaten this to death?
I think we beat it up pretty good.
Yeah.
So we got a good.
I like you did a great job, giving us kind of timelines. It's gonna answer all the questions that people are saying, that they want answers to. When we're done answering these, can you do another proposal for another 90 grand to come up with the other questions that they're gonna ask?
So will you need to provide a revised one to add in some of that, so if you could just get me that before, maybe.
Yeah, maybe
add
what we
that in
could
like
do
2
is-
weeks, so when the full board meets in 2
If
weeks,
we're
they
go-
can just look at it
Yeah,
and,
when's the next meeting again?
I don't have my phone on me in 2 weeks, I
2
don't know
weeks,
that. Yeah, the second Wednesday.
And I wouldn't mind if there was some sort of incidental overage charge, because I'd rather appropriate more money than we need. If there's something else that comes up,
Well,
there's gotta be something, because I will
Emergency fund can do that.
guarantee you,
I mean, we can put almost like a, an
Deductible
on-call
from the-
thing as needed, so we don't,
Something-
doesn't get used if you don't get asked to use it.
Additional line.
but something that we have to either vote on, or how we're gonna appropriate the money if we don't get the grant. Something that the grant will allow you when
Wiggle
you apply for
room.
the grant. You need a little bit, because there's, I think we've answered all the questions, but we didn't. There's gonna be another one.
Gonna be a lot more.
So I guess, I don't know, I guess we look at that as an
Well, I
add-on,
see- I
if
see
we
what
have
you're
to
saying.
fund it.
For the grant.
So could you add just a section for like, public comment response or, I don't know, something that, so if they ask a question, you guys need to go and search or investigate.
Yeah.
It costs
Yeah.
money, that they can come.
And we need to be clear that this is not a full-blown comprehensive dial in, everything's going to be exact, because this price would be 10 times
Yeah.
this.
Well, then you would have the actual design of the building.
Yeah, which we're not doing.
Yeah, no,
So maybe what we do is we
but we need to be clear when we let people know when we move forward with this, depending upon how we're gonna fund it.
So I was thinking, maybe we eliminate that hydraulic model, the optional one, you know, you decided that that's not what we
I
need
don't,
to do, and we put in.
I wanna consider when you have that information, if there's something you can look at and spend some time that would be beneficial, then yes. But a full-blown hydraulic model, I don't feel is, I
Well, yeah,
feel is.
well, what we can do at a minimum as part of this is we'll look at the three systems, we'll see what their hydraulic grade lines are. You know, compare it to Lunenburg's, and just, at a minimum, say, okay, well, we know that, Fitchburg's, hydraulic grade line is 100 feet, lower than Lunenburg's. We know that, at a minimum, a booster pump station will have to increase the hydraulic grade line X amount to be able to supply Lunenburg.
And then you're gonna talk to the individual supplies themselves to make sure that they're okay with, there's not restrictions, like, we don't wanna disturb Fitchburg's system and bring all their dirty water.
Yeah, and see what they have for wholesale rates, things like that.
Yeah.
Get an idea of, okay, if you were to, commit to an intermunicipal agreement that you would purchase 1 million gallons a day, what would the average, monthly cost or annual
Yeah.
cost be to purchase 300 million gallons or whatever it would be?
Yeah, just kind of a guesstimate on, like I said, I think it's a when, not an if. So, based on our system now and maybe our needs, how many days could we conceivably be down that we would have to buy water so that, like you said, 300 million gallons or whatever it would be, so we could kind of get an idea.
I think there's a known quantity in some respects.
Yeah, there's a known
When you
quantity of what
take
we
when you
need.
take heating down to deal with the hardness deposits, that's when you'd be buying water 100%.
Right.
Yeah, so in those, we focus on the off-peak season.
Yeah.
Usually.
But maybe having duplicity in the system when we design it.
Ooh, big word.
I learned a lot of big words from you, Mr. Rogers. I don't know if duplicity was one of them. But, that might be a way. Instead of buying water, the recommendation is to duplicate so that when hardness is a factor, we just move to this other system while we maintain that side.
Yep, you can build in redundancy at the site. It'll address a variety of potential problems. Not everything, but
And it would may be more cost effective to build in all the redundancy than even consider buying water outside. But you can't, catastrophic failure, you can't plan for.
Do you know Leominster fluoridates also?
They don't. So when this Keating thing came up and we were looking to purchase water from Fitchburg, I was working with Leominster too. And Leominster, we were under the opinion that if we did a larger purchase, we could get a cheaper rate for the water. And when Leominster found out Fitchburg uses fluoride, that was it. They were not putting fluoride in the system. So. And just so everybody knows, the rate that Fitchburg charged was not any kind of wholesale rate. It was more than the customers pay now.
Yeah.
So it was.
Also like the top tier.
Top, yes, yeah. I don't, back then, I don't think they had tiers, and I was shooting for, a wholesale rate, and that's why, when I spoke to them, said we were hoping that, we could get in and do one big purchase, but it didn't work out that way, so. Yeah, and I know a lot of stuff came up on rates that Lunenburg's way higher than all of them. I spoke to all the towns, because the comment came up, they're all laughing at us, so I called them all. and they're all doing PFAS treatment, sewer, water, everything. So and they're like, yeah, we're right in the middle of rate increase, and we're going to be higher than Lunenburg. So a lot of the stuff that you hear is I'm not going to do that stuff.
There's one other thing that's kind of sitting out there that may or may not have any effect on a lot of things that you're talking about. And that is the Fed is going to be meeting soon, and the consensus is that there's a good chance that they're going to be lowering rates. And if that happens, it takes some time to do this, but every little bit helps.
Where are we on any money from the class action suits for DuPont, on that class action suit?
We haven't heard.
I haven't heard.
They're getting close.
It's got to be close because I thought it was August or September was, maybe you guys know too, was like the deadline for someone to file a,
Claim.
no, the claims
Class
were
action.
done.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
the claims were done, but they had to leave it open. They said, okay,
It's
all
got to sit
done.
for so many,
It
so
had to
many,
sit
so
for
much
so many
time,
days.
because someone could put in an appeal.
yes, an appeal, so many, like, I don't know, 30, 60 days that somebody could put an appeal in, or whatever it was. Well, that just ended. So now it's coming down to that calculation. But we did just meet with them, and I did just submit all the costs that we've had up until now, as far as pilot study, any bills we had with you. They said the only thing it didn't cover was testing, and I don't know, there's a couple things it didn't cut. Anyways, it was almost $400,000. So that's going to the next round of, so this was 3M and DuPont were the big ones. Now all the little guys are starting
Yeah,
to
and there's
have to
quite a few
pay.
little guys in there.
So that's going to be a revolving thing. So this was round one. This is what we spent. So I have a folder of, as of this date, this is what we're asking for. So he said, say we're asking for 400, and we only get 100 of it. Next round, well, we still want 300 of this, plus we've spent another 100. So that's going to be a revolving.
I'm just wondering how quick
Evolve.
that could come in to if we don't get the grant funding for this. That could also be considered another funding source if that would work.
Yeah.
In a while?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you knew, Mr. Rogers, we were part of we signed on to be part of a class action
Yeah, I
suit
did,
against
yeah.
the larger companies and
Yeah.
trying to get as much funding as we can
Absolutely.
for this.
Good job.
Yeah.
Oh, that was clerk treasurer? Were you part of that? I thought
Yep.
it was all.
No.
One of you, both,
Both.
that's the staff. That's the
No
staff
squat.
finding the money. Finding the money as much as we can.
No, I was actually both of us. I
Yeah.
had to submit
There was a lot
A
of,
lot of stuff.
no, a lot of details that they needed. The wells they needed. You had to go back and find.
every pump test from one
Yeah.
of those. And
Yeah. A lot more details. than
So,
that.
yeah, as long as, if we need to tweak this at all, fine. And then I think at our next meeting, and then we can figure out how we're gonna go at it. Because
Yeah.
I would assume with your timeline starting now, until we commit to the funds, we can't.
Is that something that you guys can vote to take out of the tank?
We can.
Maintenance
We have to
account.
find a way and then still
With
apply with hopes that either the
Yes.
grant funding comes along or
Yeah.
some other source comes along. But yeah, I mean, to stay with this timeline,
With
we
that?
need to, at our next meeting.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna, I guess that we would ask you to give us the funding options
Okay.
so that we could move forward with
Yeah.
this.
And if you want to contribute something to it, I will take that too.
Yeah. Well, you got your wallet open, so let's say,
Yeah. See all the moss going in?
I would think. And if anybody in the general public doesn't think we need any of this information to proceed, let us know.
I was kind of surprised nobody.
That's all. Great. Do you think we need to keep these gentlemen any longer? I think that we can keep them to the curb unless they want to sit around and
Hang and
talk
have
to us
public
some more.
comment?
We'll get this
Yeah.
revised, get it over to you.
Yeah,
and-
and then I'll forward it to them before the meeting so they can review it.
Yep, and then I think at our next meeting, it's something that we should be
I'll
acting
put on
because
both.
it's gonna help us with a complete package when we
Yep.
go next year.
Okay.
Sounds good, great, all right, thank you very much.
Thank you. So fun meeting.
Have a great Labor Day weekend.
You too.
Oh, that's right, this is a holiday weekend?
Yeah.
Nice to see you again. Keep smiling.
Thank you guys, good job. All right, review and vote engagement letter with the auditor, Clarkview Letter CPA. Okay, all those in favor? Is there any price change from the name?
$500.
More?
Yeah. But from what I'm hearing, I don't, can get into it all, that's not much. But he hasn't, I did look back, for the past 2 years, it stayed the same, and went up $500 this year.
Okay, I don't think it's enough that we need to go
I don't either.
out, because he already knows all our stuff. And
I
it's,
agree.
and it's, yeah,
What's the total?
15,500.
and this is an annual audit of everything that we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a new guy working with him too, and
Yeah.
it's been,
Yeah, he's a good guy.
he's a really good guy, very efficient.
Yep.
Yeah,
So can we just authorize you or who to sign it?
you and Fran,
Well, I'm not the chairman.
you're acting chairman today.
Oh, great.
Put it on, everybody.
Yeah, motion, is there a motion to allow me to sign this and enter into the agreement for our accounting audit?
So moved.
Okay. Governance signature,
Yes.
do I put acting chair? I guess today I'm the
Board
chair.
member, yeah, today, yeah. And then Fran just signs the top part.
Commissioner, let's see if I spell it right. And the date today is
28, 8/20.
That's it, we're all done, we can sign that. Okay, what do we got going on? Additions?
Well, he's signed it. My one question is, so, hadn't really thought about this. The Mass Ave project, we agreed that the new line item charge was gonna start for the October 1st bills,
Yep,
$25.
yep.
So I'm getting that set up with NDS right now. But one thing I'm realizing now that we're getting into all the details is, we originally talked about $25 per account. We have different classifications of accounts. So Water 1 is a single family. Water 2 is a 2-family. Water 3 is 3-family. Carousel Lane is 24. So we never, so that's one account.
Yeah, you can't charge $25 to one high rise. It should be based on
$25
per
per
connection.
25.
Should be per
Per
connection.
Okay, so
Per
that's.
unit or per connection.
So I apologize, I hadn't even thought about it.
The
Well, no.
24 unit buildings have one connection.
But, yes, but per, so I think
Per
per,
resident.
per unit is better than per, it spreads it out, because you have 24 water bills for one. You can't spread that 20, that's $1.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Yeah, yeah,
No.
yes, yes.
So I'm thinking
So-
was we put it on every, so the 24 unit one would get 24 times 25.
Yep.
Okay,
And
So-
then the 2 units would get
two
times
minimum
25.
charges.
Threes would get 3
A
times.
3-family home's
So-
gonna get 3 minimums.
So on the good side of that, you know, we use $25, but we base that on 2,500 connections.
So
So,
we're gonna
So
be,
now it's gonna be much more spread out, so
Yeah.
the number's gonna be much higher, so that number's actually gonna be a lower number, like probably
Yeah.
$16.
but
Yeah.
so your average so if you take it that way, then the actual increase is gonna be less.
Correct.
yes.
And we need to make sure that we explain that to the public, that this is why it is less. because
Well, we
it's-
talked about that too when I sent letters out, that this is an estimate
estimate.
based on the project.
Yep.
And we are going on the higher end of that estimate, the full cost of the project, but once we get the final bond at the end,
Yep.
which will be, so what did we decide by February? So that would be coming off of the April 1st bill. So they'll have two rounds. They'll have the October bill and the January bill with the $25.
Yep.
We'll figure out that number. and then what our bond
Do,
number is and go from there.
do, and this is just with water bills, what about, we have, depends how you really look at it, you could go a little further. We have people that have sprinkler connections, do we raise our sprinkler connection price to help with this? Do we consider high water uses or commercial and doing something a little different? Because, you're taking like Walmart. Walmart uses more water than one of those apartments in one of those high rises. So,
Well, I do have those classifications, we have water 1, water 2, water 3, water 18, commercial 1, commercial 2, commercial
so
3.
should we,
So we could do a commercial rate,
Yeah,
you know.
I know we never
so
talked
when do you
about
need to,
that.
when do you need to
Well,
get this going?
I
Because I
mean-
just want to make sure it's
I know.
fair and equitable.
I know, that's a problem. She, by Friday, because I read meters next week. So I apologize that this didn't come up before. I hadn't even thought about the different classifications.
Right. Yeah.
So we could go through right now and I can change it to the $25 per resident, whatever you want to say. So there's 24 times 24. And then I don't know because then you literally would have to look at it. Are you going to charge the school differently than you're going to charge Asian, Imperial, because they're a restaurant, or Walmart, you know what I mean? Do we want to should we set it as is right now, the
They're
$25,
higher.
and then when we know our final number, which will be for the April 1st bill, we can sit there and say, okay,
That's kind of what I would think.
Yeah.
Let's do the number 25 times the, 3 units, 40, whatever it is.
By the unit.
Yes.
And then let's say, all right, look at it down the way, all right, let's do $100 per commercial unit or
yeah,
something
a
like that.
flat rate. And I just feel like we've been putting word out, it's $25 per resident right now. Once we know exactly what our numbers are gonna be when we go out to bond, that's when we could really dive into this.
And
say,
if there is extra there, I think we should spread it on the higher, larger users. If there is extra needed, if we take what we discussed, or you're saying, it's gonna be less per unit now, right? Because now you're gonna go per unit, not per connection.
Correct.
Yes,
Okay. I would probably still leave your commercial at 25.
yes, that's what I'm thinking. Let's
Okay.
okay.
So, and then for future discussion, is it something that we need to consider the bumping up our sprinkler connection fees or whatnot to help with that? And we should probably look at all of those in general because there's other stuff coming.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether, I guess that we're gonna have to look at it as to how would we fund PFAS treatment, not just in the rates. It's gotta-
Well, yeah, hold
So-
separate. So this
so-
one right here is so.
So let's
when the-
look at that, but it would open it up for down the
Yeah,
road.
yes,
figuring
how
out-
new projects are,
Yeah,
yes.
I would think-
I like this, we've been working on it, so it's, if you look at their bills over on the right side, it has the minimum 600 cubic feet is 75. Grade tier 1, tier 2, and it's gonna have its own specific line item, Mass Ave, loan 2024, and then once we go out to bond, is it gonna be for 20 years, so 2024 to 2044? There's your dollar amount that's gonna be on your bill for the next 20 years.
So all the commercial's gonna be at 25, and then you're gonna come up with whatever the rate may be to drop it down for your per unit price for
Yep.
most of your residential.
Well, the commercial ones, yes, the 25, but like we have some commercials that are multiple, right? Like, there's one account, but it pays, like up by Hanford, it's like Verizon, but that's in a COM 3, right? So they would get 3 charges.
Three,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like-
So essentially, yes.
Like people have 4 different units, 4
Yep,
different
4 different
connections.
$25, yep.
Take that, Richard.
All right.
I'm just, you gotta try to, it doesn't make sense that, that
Yeah,
larger
multifamilies.
users, multifamily, stuff
Pay the
like
same.
that, if we can do anything to kind of reduce the burden on the people that pay the minimum and use the minimum usage,
Yeah.
then I'd like to see that. What do you think, John? You like that concept?
Perfect.
That's all I got.
Okay. And then, yeah, looking for the future.
Yeah.
How we would, you know, how could we come up with creative ways to fund, hey, we're gonna spend $15 million and treat Fitchburg's water as it comes into town. You know,
Yeah.
what would some sort of a rate structure look like per $10 million or something, or
Yeah.
per $20 million, so we can,
I kind of envision that going through, you know, if we take the loan out for the treatment plant, the design, all of that, say it's $15 million for Keating's, we make that and that's that line item. But then we take, all right, this is your projected O&M. That becomes part of
part
your
of
rates.
your water rates.
You know what I mean? So it'll be a
Yeah,
two.
anything O&M
two-
should be part of our rates.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Two-tier thing.
Yep, good. All right, Mass Ave?
Mass Ave, they just actually started laying pipe. Friday, they did the intersection on Northfield Road. They've had some okay days, today was not a very good day. Yesterday was a good day, 240 feet yesterday. Today, they only did 140.
Lay it any ledge?
No, there was a sewer pipe they hit, so that it was a stub. I don't think it was marked, so they hit that. So I don't know if that'll cost us money, but so it was clean, so it wasn't messy. So that slowed them down a little bit. But they're doing pretty good. I mean, it's tough. I mean, they're on the edge of the road. The poles are right there, so they have Unitil out there holding the poles. They had them out yesterday, and they're coming back tomorrow. So they're doing okay. So just I wanted to make one little. I know we always talk redundancy, and usually don't really think of it as being an issue. But Mass Ave is an 8-inch main that feeds that whole side of Lunenburg. So there is no redundancy. So when there is an issue, temporary line splits and breaks, and we need to shut the water off, there's nothing we can do. You know, we got to shut it off. We have to fix it. Well, why can't you send us notice? Well, that ain't happening. All right, we're going to stop the fix. We're going to go send you notices. But no, we're gonna do the fix, and that's how it is.
I think, can we post something, I think we probably already have. that-
We try to,
Yeah,
that's
but
just we can.
in the middle of the night when it happens, you're not gonna post it, but just to make sure, repost again,
Yeah.
and maybe even send a letter up for the next selectmen's meeting, just so they can reiterate, hey, they're working on it. There's times it's gonna be down. We do our best to notify people,
Yeah.
but, it's not always gonna happen. You have to plan for it.
Some of these shutdowns are 45 minutes. Now we're not talking
No,
all
I
the time.
and I understand that you guys are,
They're all freaking out over it, but they got to realize that people in Mass Ave, Colton Circle, Flat Hill Road, that whole area, several times a year,
Yeah.
that whole area is without water.
Yep.
So I mean,
That's what we're
so
trying to
they're making
fix.
a little sacrifice. It's a little nuisance to lose water for an hour, or 2 hours, or 3 hours. But these people lose it for 8-10 hours all the time. So
How many times does the school have to close because the
yeah,
school
I
has
mean,
no
so
water
so
and send their kids
I
home?
know this.
Yeah.
Stuff happens. I mean, it's not like we're purposely doing things.
Nope. No,
But
exactly.
stuff happens. I mean, we're trying to minimize them as much as possible, but it happens, and there's not a whole lot we can do about it. You
Yep.
know, so anyhow, I just want to point out. But Mass Ave is going good. I'm going to hope we're at Townsend Harbor Road, so the first leg will be done hopefully by the middle of next week. So then we'll pressure test, chlorinate, and hopefully they bring in the second crew that comes in and starts tying houses on. So I think this could be a pretty decent process. Tomorrow at 2 o'clock, the directional drilling crew is coming in to look at the job. We're trying to figure out where to set them up, their staging, because we need to do pits. Pits need to be open, and so 2 pits. So the plans call for the pit to be on Townsend Harbor Road in the road, so we can't have that. So we're going to move it into the grass area. And then the thinking is we move it further onto the grass, and maybe we can get by Danny Proctor's driveway. Make that a little better, get onto the grass over there instead of in the middle of his driveway. So, but anyway, things are moving ahead. Hopefully, things go smoothly. So, Other things I got, we have a temporary two-way radio up on the tank. It's, seems to be working pretty good, for now anyway.
Mhm.
So, he's working up a game plan for us to upgrade our system and tie it in with the fire and police department, so at least something on the road. The dump truck we have, the little 1-ton, just trying to get you guys' opinion. Do you want to pursue repairing it? The dump body, the frame rails, the whole dump body is rusted. It really needs some serious work. So either we put a new dump body on it, or maybe we can have someone glad it and really glad it with a welder and weld new stuff on there.
Jeff did a bang-up job like, what, 10 years ago on that thing?
I know we did stuff on it, it was quite a while ago.
Yeah.
But then we had one of the previous employees didn't know how to run the backhoe, and you can unlock the brakes so you can lock one of either brake. Well, he hit one brake and spun
Swung
it,
the whole thing around.
and ripped the mirror off and bent the door. So I mean that's repairable stuff. We tried to buy a new mirror, but we can't find any because that thing's 2002. So it's
Yeah.
it's pretty old. So that's why I didn't know if you guys would look into fixing it, or you want to just say, all right, let's.
I wouldn't spend any money on fixing it. You could fix it, you could spend, I don't know what you spend on it to fix, but what I found out is as soon as, you go out and you buy a used truck, I've done it myself, looks great, 2 years it's ready for the junkyard. I don't know what
Yeah.
happens to them.
Yeah, but you're looking at spending, 80 grand, 100 grand on a new 1-ton versus if we
Well,
took-
I'm thinking we step up to a 55 or 65.
Yeah.
So 26,000 pounds.
I'm thinking like, 50, like a,
So what do you,
like a 550 or
Yeah.
a Dodge
Yep.
or whatever
Yep.
it is, you need a bigger truck.
So you want me to just get some prices on new
I
trucks
think
and
I
then
think
we'll see?
I think we should.
Okay.
It's the age of that truck, and then now the only other options are other things that look like they should be lawn ornaments.
I would think about maybe getting into a heavy truck. Not a single axle dump truck or something, but, the Peterbilt or International, or these guys make a 650, or so they're comparable.
They don't know, you'd have to.
No GM and Ford,
At
Dodge.
at that point, you're getting a 26,000 pound GVW type truck.
Yeah.
And a lot of the stuff that you guys use it for, I mean, I know that you probably overload that thing.
Oh.
So you definitely
You're on
wanna
a break
bump up
here,
the
huh?
size. Are you gonna go to a 550 and wish you bought a little International or a little Peterbilt or something
Yeah,
like
but I
that?
mean, we got the Mac, the small 6-wheel Mac, so I think just a little bigger one would be pretty good. And we do overload. When we were doing work at the old garage, I saw the truck pull in, I could smell the brakes. The motor's got plenty of power to pull it, but I'm like, I've never seen the mud flaps dragging on the ground before. So I grabbed the slip, and they grabbed it 4 times.
Oof.
So it was,
401 ton.
It ain't bad.
so.
I've
but
almost, I think.
yeah, we've had it
I
a couple
think-
times where you'd have to get the backhoe out
Yeah, we
and
got
like
this.
pull
scrape a
some of it
little
out
off,
before
yeah.
the body would
Well,
go
I've done all
up.
those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would start looking, and then it probably bumps it up. I'm a big hook lift kind of guy, but I think you bump up your costs, and now you're looking at containers and stuff. I just like the idea you could take a dumpster and drop it full of stone, and then have something else, but then you're still running back here to get it. So no, probably not a good. That would definitely bump it up, but yeah, I would start looking, and then
Okay.
make some recommendations and see. What's that?
All right.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's
so we're
used
kind-
more often than your bigger trucks anyway.
Yeah, we tend to use that, like when we fix a service leak, we bring that, we just put the,
They compact dirt in the-
well, no, but we put the dirt when we're digging
Oh.
in the truck instead of putting it on the grass or anywhere they clean up, so we kind of control the mess.
What are we up to now? We have the 2 utilities, which are fairly new.
2017 and the 23 utility,
And then we got rid of the Ford, so we just have the Chevy that's,
2012,
yeah,
then my new GMC Terrain.
yeah.
The Mac is a 1988, The auto cars are 1996. The JCB backhoes are 96. And the cat is a 2009. So pretty much, other than mine and utility, but everything's pretty old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we're looking at getting rid of the JCB. I'm thinking we go rubber tired excavator, and maybe get like a used loader or something. And
Try to put together a little bit of a capital type thing, so we can kind of see what we're looking at. And then I would think that when you replace that, the Chevy pickup, you'd probably just get another utility.
no, it'd probably be similar. So when we plow when it used to snow, and we plowed
Oh,
500,
yeah.
you wanted the smaller plow.
Yeah.
So that the 7.5 foot plow is awesome, because you're sneaking between the 500 telephone pole or bush or something. So the smaller plow is better. But nowadays with the V plow, yeah, I never plowed 5 into the V plow. But that might be better too.
You have to be real careful, and the utility adds, but it's nice to have all the stuff that you need all the time.
Yeah, but the utility, I mean, I'm short, well, I mean, even Woody's not short, but he said the trucks are so tall, you can't even look in the compartment, so that
Yeah.
you almost need a ladder to use it, and I'm not happy with
The
the
new
visibility, the
Visibility
hoods.
is horrible plowing in the
Yeah.
newer trucks.
So you sit in the Ford's way better than the GMC.
the newest truck we have, and the new guy drives it because nobody else wants to.
It's awful.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Motion
That's it.
adjourned?
So moved.
All right, we're done. Thank you.